Hey everyone, I'm Patrick Jones, and welcome to episode 84 of That Gives Me Anxiety. It's hot. It's really hot. I was just outside, Charleston, 1000% humidity, 98 degrees. I just came back in to record this to procrastinate mowing the lawn in that, and I got tongue tied. I'm gonna go through barrels of Gatorade. We get the scoops, the powder, so you can make it extra sugary. And I'm going to need barrels of that mowing the lawn in this heat. But after just getting back from vacation, the lawn needs it. It is overgrown. And as a man, commercials tell me that makes me bad at my job, right? Just like a Home Depot commercial, Lowe's. What kind of man are you if you have an overgrown lawn? You took a week off to go to Minnesota? Swimming in the lakes, hiking, spending time for yourself? How dare you? But yeah, vacation was great. Stopped off in St. Louis because we drove, and Iowa City on the way there, and then Louisville, Kentucky on the way back. Iowa City, very impressed. I'm telling anyone that'll listen, Iowa City, it's like where the what is it? University of Iowa, the Hawkeyes are there. Cool spot. Very hipstery. Which is a good thing. I mean, I had one of the best chicken sandwiches I've ever had in my life. I don't think that's hipstery. That's just chicken. Well, I guess I can keep talking about my vacation or get to or send us off to our interviews here. As a reminder, this is the lawn needs to be cut no matter what I do. This is part 2 of working for clients and the anxiety that can cause. In it, I talked to my friend Rajiv Fernandez and Caitlin Durning, who owns her own social media marketing business. Yeah, and they have a lot of good tips this episode on how you can manage that as a freelancer or a small business owner. But before we get there, I want to remind you, if you're liking the show, to please remember to rate and review it 5 stars, whatever platform you're on, You can check the show out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Threads. Still trying to figure out Threads, but yeah, I've set it up. So I look forward to seeing you out there. Also want to remind you of my partnership with Pure Spectrum CBD with the promo code AnxietyPod, one word, for 15% off your orders. I've been using the CBD Solve, which helps like loosen the muscles. I have a beach volleyball injury. My neck, it hurts so much, it's so stiff. Like turning it, that hurts so much. Or like it's even tilting my head. No. So yeah, that's been a big help. I mean, I couldn't even move it at all. But also they're gummies, they're tinctures, like whatever you want, like the stuff for your pet. When we just passed 4th of July, might want to keep that stuff on hand for any extra fireworks that your dog will have to encounter. And if you're liking the show and you want to make a donation, you can through the Buy Me a Coffee link, which is in the description. So yeah, now I think it's time to make our way to chat with Caitlin and Rajiv. As always, thank you so much for listening and enjoy. Joining me again for part 2 on anxiety related to working for clients, I have my good friend Rajiv Fernandez. Rajiv, thank you so much for coming on. I said your name like a game show host that time.
Come on down. I mean, there's nothing more that excites me if I were to be the next contestant on The Price is Right. So thank you for having me. It's
Yeah,
very
of course.
fun to talk and chat with you.
Yeah. So, in case someone didn't listen to part 1 of our conversation, I'm wondering if you can give a little bit of some of your background here, just so anyone who's listening to this episode, I don't know what monster listens to part 2 without part 1, but people have other things going on. So yeah, give us a little bit of your background here.
Well, some people say I'm a clown because I'm juggling a lot of things.
Hey, there it is.
But I am an architect who practices in New York City. And I also have a startup company where we are a platform to educate and empower kids in their own identity. And I also teach as well in a continuing ed department at the new school, helping other people make career pivots, and just as I did at one point.
Awesome. And for the listeners, I also interviewed Caitlin Durning, who owns her own social media company, which part one of my conversation with her was featured last episode. And I kind of want to play the clip now because there's a bunch of questions that I want to ask you based on what Caitlin was saying. So yeah, let's head right there so everyone can hear what she had to say. Can we talk? I know you've got a lot on your plate. You've got work. You've got friends, you've got family, pets, you've got the people that you make small talk with at the coffee shop or gym. You've got that bird that you see when you wake up every morning outside your window that you've projected things onto. Look at that bird. Doesn't even love its family, it's always by itself. You do that. Everyone does that. Point is, you've got a lot on your plate. Well, that's why there's Instacart, to take a little bit off your plate. Using Instacart, you search for all your favorite foods and things that you need from the grocery store, all online, all while you're looking at that bird, wondering why it hasn't called its mom. And they deliver it to you. They go to the store and do the shopping for you. And they can deliver it in as fast as an hour. And you can sign up by clicking the link in the description, wherever you're listening or watching. And that's a great way of supporting the show. So it's a great way of supporting this show. It's a great way to make your life a little bit easier because we all know that you have so much going on, like wondering whether that bird judges you back. I've experienced this twice in my life where my sense of self was tied into either a hobby or a job, and both times it took like years to sort of like separate that. How did you do it?
Yeah. My tools, I work with a mind body coach and
Okay.
we do morning meditations. And
Hmm.
in these meditations, like I'm going to get deep here because I think the specifics
Let's
are,
get deep.
yeah, she'll say, you are worth it. Like you are enough in the meditation. So I'm kind of in this like half sleep, half awake moment. And I'm receiving these thoughts, like I'm giving this to myself. And I actually have started to believe it, like over time, it started to rewire my brain. A lot of the things we're seeing online right now with marketing is like neuron rewiring. And they say meditation can do it, breath work. I'm still learning a lot about it. So I'm by no means an expert, but I can say it's worked for me. It's allowed me to take on this belief and kind of own it, even if I'm not voicing it, right? I'm not like being reactionary if my client's like, Caitlin, get on the phone with me now. I might just not answer them. I love do not disturb for anxiety.
Yeah.
Do not disturb is our best thing ever. It's a blessing.
That's incredible. And through this interview, one of the notes I took down here is it seems like one of your superpowers is really, really clear communication of boundary setting of what you are and what you aren't. And in this sense, I mean, you as in your company, is that something you learned or tell me a little bit about how you communicate with clients and how that helps you maintain your sanity?
Yeah. Boundary setting was nothing that I've ever grown up with. I lived in a very codependent household. My parents were divorced. I'm an only child, so it's just me. I didn't have any siblings to lean on during difficult times in my life. So boundaries were never a thing. It's so funny when I started talking about boundaries on social media, my aunt commented on it and she goes, wow, our family has no boundaries. It was like she was having realizations, but I
See, she's learning. You're teaching her. Great.
all through Instagram, it's so funny. You can have posts and they trickle off into different areas of your life. But yeah, so I had to learn. I had to learn from coaches that I hired and really just discerning what was going to make me happy. My first therapist was very spiritual. So she would incorporate a lot of spirituality techniques, things like EFT tapping can be really helpful for people like when we can't get in the present moment. I shared on my podcast a lot as well. Like I was diagnosed with PTSD in 2020. So I had to make this shift for my health. As a result of the PTSD, I had high blood pressure.
Mm.
Intense stress. Like I would have panic attacks. It was just not healthy, not a way to live. So
No.
once it started to become about my health, it was like, this is a non-negotiable. I have a baseline and I can own that. Even though I'm 26, I'll be 27 in a few days. It was like,
Happy birthday.
thank you. When you're working with these people that are so much older than you and they know a lot, it's
Mm.
difficult to kind of position yourself like that. But I think my only child moments where it was just me in a room of all adults, it allowed me to learn how to at least have a presence at the table.
Yeah. Something that you just said really, like, I would underline if a few times if it was written. I mean, you described being diagnosed with PTSD and how, well, all of this became about my health. And it's like, well, it always was, right? It always was like, and we as a society don't take our mental health serious enough as we would, for example, high blood pressure or something like that. Somehow it got separated and it's very much intertwined. I mean, yeah, the ramifications of anxiety, like your heart's pumping, right? High blood pressure, like on and on and on, like the stress that it puts on your body. So yeah, just like reminding people that that's just part of health, right?
They're all together. On when we were chatting earlier, we were talking about like tense, like how our muscles get tense in these moments of high stress or pressure. And my coach, she actually related blood pressure to pressure I was putting on myself in my business, like how these words and dialect actually have a lot of meaning to them. But like you said, over time, they've just completely separated. It's almost like we are living detached from our bodies, because if we lived in
Mm-hmm.
our bodies, we would be a lot sicker than we all are currently, which is a lot of us struggle already. So that was a huge alignment for me, where it was like, whoa, okay, if I can release my shoulders, maybe I'll make a better decision than I was, like I'll say. And then it also became experimental. So if someone's struggling with this and it doesn't feel fun and it doesn't feel fluid, just try it, see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Anything.
Absolutely. Yeah. With like any mental health thing, and it's like even choosing a therapist, it doesn't have to be the thing that you do all the time, right? You have to try these things on and we try on a pair of pants, right, before we buy it. Like, why not try on different, if you want to do art therapy or whatever it is, give it a shot first.
Totally. I love the experimentations. That's what I say to my clients a lot too. Finding the joy in life again is like so important for us right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think it always has been, but it's just more obvious right now.
Absolutely. I'm curious what kind of advice you would give to someone who is a freelancer or whatever job it is, and they're working for clients. What do you think is like the most important thing for them to keep in the back of their mind?
Yeah. I would say, as much as your business needs you, you don't need your business. Even though your business is supposed to help you live this lifestyle that you want. A lot of us get into business because we want freedom, we want an escape, we don't want to be working under someone, whatever it may be. It really comes down to that freedom. So don't let your business now become that next place of jail cell, like
Mm-hmm.
I have
Yeah.
totally done that. And it all matters. The clients matter, your team matters, what you're doing matters. And the best direction I could give to somebody that's maybe struggling with that, like struggling with direction or hiring, is just reconnect to yourself, get quiet, ask yourself the difficult questions. Don't be afraid. We've all been there. Even these entrepreneurs that you see billions and billions of dollars, you never heard about their story 30, 40 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
what they went through. So just know that there's always hope. And even if your client's upset with you, you don't have to be upset with yourself. That's a huge one. Just let it go. Let them be.
Yeah. And that comes back to separating yourself from your business, like emotionally and mentally. And yeah, that's a big deal
Yeah.
because then it just doesn't hit you here, right in your heart.
Yeah, it's not the work. I remember
Yeah.
really feeling like a failure when I made this pivot to get into like intuitive coaching. I thought I was shutting down my agency. And I was sitting at the beach house with my mom and I'm like crying, telling her I'm such a failure. I've failed at everything. And she's like, even if you walked away now, look at what you did. No one's
Mhm.
looking at you as a failure. It's just most of the time we're writing these narratives, and a lot of the times they're not true.
That's a great point. Absolutely. Well, tell me about your podcast.
Yeah. So the End in Mind colon, if you guys are searching for it, it's End in Mind colon personal development for entrepreneurs. And we interview a lot of really great people that have started businesses. They've had businesses for years. They've gone bankrupt. Maybe they've even just gotten into business. A lot of it also tends to be some of the tactics that I mentioned, like meditation, spirituality, yoga, how this can help us get back into our bodies and how important that is for being in business. But yeah, it's a great time. My podcast is totally my passion project. It's like so much fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. What's your favorite kind of yoga? I'm a yin guy.
Oh, nice. I
Yeah.
just like dabble. I really like Pilates
Okay.
recently, so that's been like my jam. But yoga, I sometimes do like yoga with Adriene on YouTube. I think a lot of people use her. I don't go to
Hmm.
the video right
I
now.
have. Yeah.
Yeah, she's like huge. I think COVID, she got really famous.
Hmm.
Hot yoga, I've really been liking too. I've really liked that recently. But yeah,
What do you like about that? I've never done it, so I'm just curious, like what you've liked about it.
I kind of like the detox of it. It's
Mm.
like I know I'm going in there and I'm gonna like really get let loose from the weekend, like from whatever I've been inhaling over the weekend. It's just gonna be out of me in an hour. I really like that part of it. I also find it kind of like a challenge.
Mm.
I've definitely in the past have been like ran away from those moments where I'm like physically uncomfortable. So
Hmm.
trying to challenge myself to stay in there. Sometimes you need a water break. There's no harm from that. But yeah, I just like the sweating of it all. It's kind of nice.
Well, that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of like just being like the gross person, right? Like I'm building up in my head that like everyone, like I'd be sweating like 4 times more than anyone else, and like people would be staring at me. And as I'm saying it, I realize it's probably ludicrous, but that's my fear.
No, I relate to that. I'm like a sweater. Like I think anxiety people, we just sweat. Even now
Yeah.
I'm sweating. Like in interviews, I
And
always
we're just
sweat.
talking. I'm sweating too. Yeah.
It's like very funny. But yeah, owning the sweat.
Owning the sweat. I love that. That's a
Let
bumper
it
sticker
go.
right there.
Yeah, I love that. I'll trademark that.
Yeah. Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I just want to see if there's anything you think I missed, anything that you want to talk about working for clients or your podcast, or just any wisdom that you have that you'd like to share with the listeners.
Yeah, I think we touched on a lot, but maybe as like a closing statement, just don't let anybody tell you what you're worth. Even at being in business, people will tell us like, oh, you're not pricing yourself high enough because you don't have enough self-worth, or your clients will always come and they'll pay that fee. And I think business is more about meeting yourself where you want to be in life. And again, just intuitively connecting to that. Don't let anybody tell you that your worth is nothing, or also like on this figure that is abstract.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, that's great advice. And yeah, thank you so much for stopping by. And I've really enjoyed this conversation. So yeah, let's stay in touch.
Awesome. I look forward to it. Thanks so much for having me.
One of life's mysteries is that birthdays always find me unprepared, catch me unprepared. I don't go on Facebook as much, so I don't notice them as much. But I want to express my love and appreciation for friends and family. That wasn't part of the copy. I'm just saying it. Year after year, month after month. Even when I see it coming, I'm not ready. Am I a jerk? Yes and no. Why do things have to be so black and white for you? But I've got great news, friends. Introducing monthly card subscriptions from the Cardist Studio. Join the service that delivers the card and the stamp that you'll need to your door. No more errands. Who wants more errands? I don't know why, but I'm starting to think of errands as a kid's name. Errands, go back to bed. Okay, but here's how it works. You choose your categories, from birthdays and celebrations to love and encouragement, or select their full collections and have those thank you notes and just because cards at the ready. Those ones are always so nice. Like when you get a card for doing something and it's just like a small little heads up or token of appreciation, it genuinely makes you feel really good. And best of all, you would never get caught cardless again. Let me repeat, you'll never get caught cardless again. Try to say that a bunch of times in a row. You'll never get caught cardless again. Monthly card subscriptions from as little as $8 per month for the card and the stamp. Delivered to you. TheCarterStudio.com shop subscriptions. And you can use the promo code AnxietyPod for 15% off your originating order. Okay, here's one of the questions that I really have been looking forward to asking you about. It's something that I've experienced. I mentioned in the clip with Caitlin, where your sense of self can get tied up in a job, particularly in a creative field or a small business. Is that something that you've experienced or are experiencing, and how have you managed something like that?
Oh, totally. I think I mentioned before that when I was trying to build up my illustration portfolio, I would post things on Instagram and I would associate the worth of my work to the amount of likes that I got. Mm-hmm. So once I realized that if I'm not getting stuff out of this platform that I'm using, I don't need to be giving value to it, which affects my self-esteem. So, especially with the new my new company, when we post on social media, I have very low expectations. And I think the most important thing is that like we're just putting out the content that's true to our brand and elevating and highlighting the stories that we want to tell. The algorithms work in such a way where they're unpredictable and
ever changing.
Exactly. And I think we've seen Instagram like devalue itself over the past couple of years, because during the pandemic, when TikTok took over, one thing that they valued was authenticity. And now TikTok's starting to get into they're starting to commodify it, and it's losing some of that original appeal that it had. And Instagram is just copying TikTok. So you're seeing all these large social networks kind of compete with each other and desaturate themselves because they're trying to do too much. And I think that's a lesson for how one creates their own brand and image. Is you don't want to be doing too much of everything. You want to focus on one thing that sets you apart and makes you feel like you have worth, that you're adding value that nobody else can be adding.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that you're saying. It is difficult at times for me to accept that, right? Everything you're saying makes sense, but it does take a while, and it's an ongoing struggle for me where, if I had jobs where, like my Buzz 60 job, I had a lot of my self-worth tied into that job, where it would be like, again, it comes down to social media and getting the views, because that was praised, right? To X amount of views meant you were doing well.
Right. And that's probably how they were measuring benchmarks for you, correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. They like if they were annual reviews were tied like that.
And I remember a few of my friends also started their architectural practices the same time as I did. And we've been very lucky where we're a group of people that are very supportive of each other, because I know there are a bunch of other people in the field who are just like kind of cutthroat with each other. We share a lot of resources and share a lot of stresses that we have gone through. And it's a very supportive environment. So having like a network like that, I think, encourages you to keep going on. The other thing that we get from being freelancers and owning our own practices is the value of owning your work and the value of creating all your wealth yourself. That cannot be replicated when you work for somebody else, no matter like what type of incredible work you're doing. I think when you do it on your own, it teaches you a lot about yourself and how resourceful you can be in
Mm-hmm.
order to support yourself
Yeah,
and
because you
support
have
others, your
to.
loved ones.
If you don't do it, who will, right? And you can do
Right.
these
And
things.
yeah, and you become inventive. I mean, I remember there was a time when I almost had to go and ask my mother for some money because I wasn't going to be able to make my rent payment. And luckily, I remember I had to bill a client and I sent her the bill and she paid it right away. And I think I can't remember if I've told her this, but I like, you saved my ass. And I will never forget, I will never forget that feeling of almost having to be my tail between my legs to go and ask my mother, because especially as a child of immigrants, asking your parents for money is like the worst thing you can do. And from that moment, I've never been in a position where I would have to do that again.
That's awesome.
Um, and so knowing that I could overcome such a moment in my life that would have been detrimental to my psyche, I think that teaches me that, yeah, I can create the startup, but I have to make sure that I can do it in a sense that wouldn't put me in jeopardy, that I'm doing it within my means. And I think that's an important thing too, in order to, be able to succeed in what you're doing, is like doing things within your means, not overextenuating yourself.
Yeah, man. I freelanced for like 2 years in around 2017 or so. And just chasing people down for money was so anxiety. Like getting, the contract would say that you have 60 days to pay. And like more often than not, I got paid 75 days later. Like it's just
Well, one thing someone taught me is when you structure your contracts is to get most of the money up front. So I started
mm,
doing that, and it's it's smart because you never know
yeah.
what could happen in a job. Like they might just cancel it, and then you're like, oh, I didn't invoice them for most of the job. So there are definitely ways from a business standpoint you can safeguard yourself. And I think one thing I would encourage everyone to do is learn how to write agreements and contracts, because that's going to save your butt at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible advice. So another thing that came up is and was coming up in episode one was communication skills and like communicating boundaries. You mentioned how that sort of just came from like a sense of like just being annoyed about or being tired of being like battered around by bad clients. But how did you learn how to do that in like the most effective way? Did you have like a mentor or watch other people or lean on your friend group for that? Like how would you recommend somebody try to improve their communication skills and their boundary setting skills?
I would say in when it comes to business, personally, I learned how to set boundary skills through talking with my therapist. My therapist would say, why don't you try this? Tell them, when you say this, it makes me feel this way. And I'm like, please don't do that. So and in my head I was like, oh, but like I'm such like a, I like to joke around with my friends, so like I feel if I do this they're gonna feel like they won't be able to anymore. And so like that's what prevented me from doing all the time, that I felt by setting boundaries I would be changing my personality around other people. But what
Mhm.
I learned was that's the opposite. People recognize that there are push points, and as fun as I could be, I could also be, irritable, and that's because my boundaries were being pushed.
Mhm.
So once you establish them, and I've done this with my friends, I've done this with my immediate family, and I think everyone's life has improved because they know where they can go. In business, one thing when it comes to boundaries, I think the boundaries are good for yourself, like knowing your limits that you can do. So for example, in my startup, I have a design background. So I could opine and make critiques and go on and on about the design of our products and the aesthetic that we're putting out there. Whereas my business partner, she is a child development specialist. So, she comes from this neuroscience background and understands like functionality of communicating with children or communicating with adults. And we know that we're both in our own lane and we can make suggestions to the other, but at the end of the day, we know each other has the final call in the lane that we're in. So I think also with that, creating that boundary also alleviates stress from me, knowing that I don't have to make that decision, that she's going to. And I think it's same for her, where she knows that I'm going to make those design decisions, so she doesn't have to like worry about that, because we just don't communicate, we just don't understand or comprehend things the way that each other does.
Right. Yeah, that's great to be able to do that. But I also imagine,
but with a client, sorry, you also want me to say about a client, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So with a client, for example, in my architecture firm, because I've been so clear on what I will do in my scope of work, I haven't had severe conflict with a client. Everything, if there was a piece of conflict, I could always revert back to the contract agreement that we both signed, saying, listen, I'm only doing things per what we agreed to. I remember there was a time when architects would pat themselves on the back because like, we go above and beyond for our clients. And I said, yeah, I do the work for my clients, but I'm not going to do that unless I'm being valued back. And I feel like many people have this misconception about what, if they don't really know what you do, then they're not going to value you. So I think that's why before I signed the agreement with the client, I explained to them what work that we do and why they need me.
That's important.
And then I say, like, if you don't want to pay this fee, you can go ask somebody else, but they're not going to give you any better price or whatever. So I mean, I think a lot of people, especially when they think of architects, they think, oh, that's kind of like a luxury item to have. But there are technical aspects that we do and we have the expertise to do that are worth employing us for.
Certainly. Yeah, absolutely. But I imagine like if you're setting boundaries with family and friends, it becomes easier to do that with work, right? It's like those 100%. Are the hard boundaries to set. Yeah.
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
The boundaries with the family keep getting pushed, but
certainly.
But I have the confidence now to push back. So
good for you. Yeah. Yeah.
I love you, Mom. Just kidding.
Well, I have one last question for you, and it's sort of advice for freelancers, creatives of any kind, small business owners on how to manage their stress related to their business. Because, when you are in a creative field or in a, all the examples I mentioned, your world and your work world can cross over, right? And bleed into one another. So how do you sort of manage that stress? What would you say to them?
One, start to really trust other people and relinquish control of aspects of your freelance career. For example, I have an accountant that does my taxes. Yeah, sure, I'm paying them more than what I could do them for myself, but I don't have the time and energy to understand, like, I don't get it. I don't get how taxes work.
I don't want to get it.
I entrust him to do that. I also have, I work with a consultant to do like all the paperwork for filing jobs in New York City. Why? Because I can't be bothered to take the hours of the day to do that type of work when I could be doing other things. So I think relinquishing control of some aspects of running your business will really help you thrive in the field that you excel at.
Yeah. And you're also, I mean, based on what you were just saying, those two examples are like investments in that you're getting back the time and the mental strain that they would have otherwise caused.
I think that's a great way of putting it, as an investment rather than like, oh, I have to pay someone for this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because it's going to have to, you got to pay your taxes. Right? This has got to be how it is. Yeah. Well, I just want to make sure, is there anything that you think I missed or anything, from the first episode or this episode that you want to mention about freelancing, your work, or managing stress?
Yeah, one of the hardest things I did was deciding to go out on my own. And basically I was able to do it mainly because the old firm I worked for told me one day I didn't work for them anymore. So I was kind of forced into it, but it was that push that I needed because it was something I knew that I wanted to do. I wanted to invest in myself and put my creativity out there and support myself from that. So I think it's going to sound very cliche, but like taking those risks only will pay off if you jump. No, wait. Okay, let me rephrase this. It's important to invest in yourself. So taking risks is essential in doing that. Some will work, some won't. But I think you'll learn a lot about the process in making your successful along the way. I think those words got jumbled up there somehow, but
I get what you're going for. Yeah, if you don't jump, you'll.
I just came up with this. Be the change that you want to see in the world. I came up.
Yeah,
with
you just create. Yeah, there you go. You could coin right there.
An Indian man came up with that phrase, so just remember that.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Right there.
If at first you don't succeed, don't try skydiving.
That feels like a dad quote or joke there. Yeah.
Another thing though is be willing to take those risks, but also be willing to take them within your means. The worst thing you want to do is feel dejected about the risks that you take. And I think if you do it within your means, it's just creating a healthy environment for yourself.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, this has all been great. I love talking to you about some serious stuff here. Thank you so much for your time. And before we go, I just want to give you a chance to mention social media and websites that you think people should go check out and where they can find you.
Oh, thank you. You can check out the work that we're doing at Historicons. That's our handle as well, HISTORICONS. And we are a platform to educate and empower kids in their own identity. And so we tell stories of the underrepresented. And if you have stories that you want to hear or you want to see yourself reflected as a tool for teaching kids, like please let us know. We're trying to build a community and we're trying to provide a representation that we wish we had when we were kids. So yeah, Historicons is the main thing I want to plug. My architecture firm, nah.
Yeah.
I don't get anything out of social media for my architecture firm. So I don't even have a social media for my architecture firm. So I'm only plugging what I can get out.
There you go. Well, awesome, man. Nice hanging out with you, even though through Zoom. And yeah, thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, every time I turn my head, just reacting to something, it's a shooting pain up my neck. Oh. Well, thank you so much to Rajiv and Caitlin for their insight and tips and helpful information on how we can work better with clients and sort of set boundaries. Before I get to the weird thing causing me anxiety this week, I want to remind you of the Buy Me a Coffee link. It's in the description. Just a way to make a donation to the show or a tip. We tip on everything nowadays. Why not your podcast? Then there's the Pure Spectrum CBD. The link is in the description, but there's the promo code AnxietyPod for 15% off. The Cardist Studio also has the promo code AnxietyPod for 15% off your initial order. Sending people sweet little cards. You want to be that person? You do want to be that person. And if you want to get home delivery of groceries, you can do so with the link in the description. To overuse a phrase. For Instacart. And by signing up that way, you're telling Instacart that this show sent you, which also helps support the show. So, okay, the weird thing causing me anxiety this week, it's more about last week where, when you're on vacation, staying at someone else's house, right, you don't usually have everything that all the comforts of home, right? I was going to go into a very long description of that, but the comforts of home, like your schedule, your things, there's a comfort in routine, right? And just being out of my element for a little bit, staying at Jamie's grandma's place. Although I've been recognizing it and I recognize that pattern, that thought pattern, and sort of was like challenging the thoughts. Thank you to my therapist for helping me with that. Which is a win, right? To recognize those thoughts. But it still can feel distressful. I think that's the best word for it. And something you're like actively working through. Well, yeah, I think I did better this time than I have in the past. So that's a win. Well, it looks like I have to. Speaking of distressing, it's time for me to go out there and mow the lawn and turn into a puddle of sweat. Well, as always, thank you so much for listening. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you on Thursday.